Today on the Cosmic Force, give us your views, your likes, and your subscriptions. We're talking Terminator and Star Wars. That's right, Terminator and Star Wars through the lens of Beilert Valance. I think we're in for a really good, mean, lean show here. So without too much further ado, my name is Caleb Lamanak. I'm going to be one of your hosts today. And we have it's kind of like an alternate universe crew going on here. So Timothy, why don't you introduce yourself, talk a little bit more about how excited we are.
We are very excited. I don't have a robot face, so I just figured I'd pull Jacob back out. Anyways, there's that. I am good. I've been dealing with my future self, my past self, and several other alternate versions of me all day today. So that's a counseling joke. And also because time travel's a thing. So anyways, hi. It's good to see you guys. I'm very excited to get into this tonight. It's going to be a blast.
Absolutely. But we do have one more special guest, I think appearing for the first time live on screen, the one and the only Wes Jenkins is here running our show.
Hello, everyone. It's funny because when I was setting the show up, I saw Jacob's face back there on YouTube, and I wasn't going to say anything. I was like, oh, that must be something that they do all the time. So I was just like, I was going to keep that to myself, but it was a little weird. So I chose to help out within a split second of this show because I heard that we will be talking about Terminator. I'm a big time Terminator fan. Terminator 2, I probably watched when I was like 7 years old. I think my dad we got like HBO as like a free preview weekend or something. And I think I watched Terminator, like it came on over and over and over again. And me and Edward Furlong, I was like, man, I wish I'd be as cool as Edward Furlong. But I'm super stoked to talk about this because Valence has a couple characteristics that kind of mirrored Terminator.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But before we get to the meat and bones, we have to do some window dressing here. So if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We are a Star Wars comics podcast that broadcasts live right here on youtube.com/Utini every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. If you can't join us live, that's great. We're also available here on YouTube and all your favorite podcast platforms. We are a part of the Utini podcast network of shows and a Discord channel at utini.com/Discord of over 1,000 members and dozens of lively channels to join. Like what you see and want to support us, head over to Patreon at patreon.com/Utini for as little as just $5 a month. You can gain access to the entire up-to-date Utini podcast network of shows, exclusive merch, community involvement activities, and even more. Timothy, you're kind of our head honcho over there. Do we have any new patrons this week?
Yeah, sure thing. We do want to give a shout out to Tim Costello. He has been such a treat just hanging out with us. Ran into him at Celebration. He's been hanging out in the Discord channel a lot, talking all things Kenobi. We're not going to talk any spoilers or anything, but it's so good. He's been reading a bunch of comics as well, so got to shout that out. I'm looking for some recommendations. So what a good time to shout him out. We also have some fun stuff that we've dropped on Patreon this last week. Jared's tattoo video, as promised, has officially dropped, as well as a surprise little 50-second clip of Eric building the N1 Naboo starfighter that we see in Mando. No,
yeah.
Boba. Yeah, whatever it was.
Oh,
it happened.
Boba.
He built it as fast as Mando could fly it. It's like it's a speed time lapse joke. See, all the time jokes. I'm coming for you tonight, boys.
Oh, boy.
But anyways, thank you to our patrons. We're still coming off of all the greatness that was seeing you guys at Celebration and for helping us to get there. And we're so incredibly grateful to have y'all. And we love to shout you out whenever we can. So yeah, thank you. And now I guess we can transition to the weekly pull list. We only had one, And I think this one comic came out today because of the topic of today's show. We got a Bounty Hunters issue, Bounty Hunters number 24. The subtitle is The Raid on the Vermilion. Writer is Ethan Sachs. Pencils by Paolo Villanelli. The A cover is by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Jesus Abertov. Colorist Arif Prianto, and the letter is VC's Travis Lanham. I still have no idea what's happening in any of these Crimson Reign issues. This is not a spoiler for this particular issue, but like, is this person with Crimson Reign? Are they not? I think they are. No, they're not. There's a lot.
There's a lot. Like issue to issue, like people in the Crimson, Dawn versus not, like change so quickly. It's a lot. I'm kind of waiting for this to collect a little bit. I think the subtitle is technically Raid on the Vermilion Part 1, so there's at least going to be a Part 2 somewhere out there. So I'm excited. I think I'm going to catch up on this. Like the Villanelli art is always amazing, and we're about to dig into just why Valence here is like, he's kind of like the coolest Star Wars character in like a grungy 90s way,
Yeah,
that is accurate.
Like he's definitely wearing the 90s coveralls.
When you were when you were 8 years old and you read Valence and stuck that in behind your parents' back, yeah, he would be your favorite. You would get beat up on the school because no one else would know who he was, and say that Darth Maul's cooler, but deep in your heart, you'd be right.
I saw someone online, or maybe it was in Discord, I can't remember, with this particular pose. They're like, that's not Valence, that's Iron Man. I was like, close enough, it's fine.
You're right. It reminds me a little bit of Cable too from Marvel.
Yeah,
another great 90s popular character.
We're just gonna live in your lane, Wes. Well, loving the art. Let's talk about something else that we're loving. As promised from last week, I got to see the Yoda fountain, and today I brought proof. Actually, I forgot, and Emma put the picture in here for me.
Oh,
so
good.
Shout out to Emma. This is me with the Grandmaster himself. This is one of like the coolest experiences of my life. I never ever thought I would ever get to go to Lucasfilm, and it was a Sunday, and it was raining, and I didn't meet anybody or see anybody, but I saw this, and I got to experience this. So Hannah took a couple pictures. I got to take this one. It was so cool.
Yeah, I see this like the overhead shot of this when I watch some of the Star Wars YouTube stuff, and I was like, there's no way let you on the grounds of Lucasfilm.
No, so that's the crazy thing.
No, you snuck in and you didn't know it. That's what happened.
It's like I used a couple of mind tricks. I'm not I'm not the person you're looking for. I am the Lucasfilm employee, the future Lucasfilm employee. I'm just going to manifest this now, right? But no, it's really cool. I mean, it's like 15, 16 acres, probably more than that, of just public land. And it's gorgeously manicured. You can they've got all these different shops and like random places around there. You can just drive up, park. So we got out of the car and we walked like a block and a half in the rain before we realized the GPS says the Yoda fountain's behind us, like close to where we parked. And sure enough, if I had just gotten out of the car and turned left, I would have been looking right at the dude. So it's so cool that it's that close.
So it's like a guy thing. We always go right. I always turn right where I'm looking for stuff, and then I'll end up doing it in a complete circle. I've done that like with the loop here in like traffic in Houston. I'll just take the loop and take a right, and I'll take a 45-minute loop all the way around the city until I'm like, I probably if I gone left, I could have saved myself an hour and a half. But
Atlanta's very much that way too.
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. 985 perimeter is it's brutal. Like the perimeters of grocery stores. Next time you're in Publix, you suddenly realize like they want you to go right. Like if you go left, you feel like a criminal.
I feel that. Well, Caleb, what else are we loving this week? You've been reading some things, right? But we also have some fan love.
Yeah, let's get into the fan love first. This one, well, we haven't touched on this in a while, but you keep submitting great art on our Discord page, discord.com/UT/the Cosmic Force. So if you have some good art, put it there and you will be featured, just like we're doing now. Which we have a 2 for here. We have one from Blind Fates and from Admiral Akbar. Both had great submissions. The first one is from Blind Fates, aka Jordan. This was Republic number 5 with art by Brian Ching, and this is a great multiple page spread of clones and proto ATs just blasting away. Just some really great early dark horror, or late, I guess technically late Dark Horse comic art with some really detailed explosions. Like you can really see the finery on that ATSD. It just feels very full, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look at that crater that those troopers are standing in right now.
Exactly.
Oh
From
yeah,
the
and it's
ATSD.
crazy to think the clone army had these first, because the AT-ATs, like
That's right.
that definitely wasn't a thing in canon yet, or at least that I've seen. So that's cool that that this happened to exist in Legends.
And I
Is that
still love
most-
that. I still love that armor more any of the
Is
Stormtrooper or the
that
First Order.
Phase 3 clone trooper or Phase 4? I forget.
I don't know, but it's sick, and I want it.
Yeah.
I want it on a podium in the corner of my living room. I think
Yeah,
it
I
goes
gotta-
right. I think it'd replace that lamp just right.
I got a
Just
spot
get-
for it. It's got to be
Just
somewhere.
get a 3D printer, or apparently just it's pretty easy to knock out stormtroopers. So next time there's a convention in town and 501st
Mhm.
shows up,
Yeah,
Just,
I'm gonna shout out Maggie in our Discord. She made a Mando helmet recently, which is cool.
nice.
So just 3D printers, man. I'm gonna find, as CFO, I'm gonna find some Mutini funds and just buy me one.
exactly. Well, it's
Do need
it's
one.
not just for us,
We
for
do.
you. It's for us. The
You're
team
correct.
needs it.
Correct.
Exactly. I did tease that there were 2 arts of the week, and the second one comes from Admiral Akbar. This one, I think we have it blown up a little bit here. This is from TIE Fighter number 2. I think this is when like an Imperial Lancer ship was getting torched, but not
Correct.
destroyed. Just
Yeah.
destroyed. This art by Rouge Anatio and Jos Casadra. Man, I'm really bad at names right now. Good thing you took the poll week this time. But yeah, no, it's just a really nice panel of some just classic destruction. I love seeing like TIE fighters and they swoop around and get around to the corners. Just some really good solid artwork here.
So normally, if you had like just a white, you just picture this as like a white background, it wouldn't look bright. But the way that they put in like the yellows and the orange, and everything, it kind of hurts your eyes by looking in the middle there. And that's a testament to the illustrator there of how they can use those colors to make a bright spot when you wouldn't really think that it's bright if you just looked at like a regular white panel. So
Right.
It's
really
brighter than white.
yeah.
I reread this entire miniseries because this was from TIE Fighter. I reread Imperial Commando earlier,
okay.
and there was some work just like this. And I remember thinking, all I'm looking at in the middle is white, but it is so like neon, the way the highlighting and the shading works. Like it's brilliantly done. Love it.
Absolutely. So let's move on to what we're kind of reading and catching up on with art wise or book wise. Last week I teased that I'd started Lords of the Sith. I'd finished it off. And it was pretty good. It was pretty okay. Ironically, after like a day or 2 after I finished it, I was talking with a friend about Star Wars novels, and he just finished reading the episode 3 novelization. He's like, "Wow, that was so good." I'm like, "Yes, we all know that the episode 3 novelization is like crazy good." He's like, "What should I read next?" Like, well, what I want, and he described to me that I'm interested in like the Darth Vader and the Emperor dynamic and the early days of the rebellion. I'm like, that's real interesting because I just read a book about that, but I don't know if I should recommend it to you first, you know?
That's
Like,
fair.
like it was okay, but like he's just now getting into it. I'm like, I feel like there's like at least 10 other books I can name off the top of my head, off the tip of my tongue, that would be a better like early read in your Star Wars canon books, you know?
Mhm.
How about a Legends choice? This is a good
Oh,
one.
I mean,
That's
listen,
the top of everyone's list.
when it in publication order, you're right.
I know we just-
immediately second one.
I know we just redid all this. Who needs the Essential Six? Just read Splinter of the Mind's Eye. That's it.
And when you're done, you need to read it again because you probably missed some things the first time through.
Correct. You were cringing too hard through some moments. You need to go
Wonder
back.
if they have that on audiobook.
Well, there is the
No,
comic
Wes, the
version.
answer is
There
no.
there is a comic version of that I did read, and like that was something interesting. So you can read the comic and after you read the book, and then listen.
Fascinating.
Maybe I know I teased out the use this joke before, but Patreon goal, maybe we make the audiobook of Splinter of a Mind's Eye.
I haven't heard
I'm
that
gonna-
one. It's pretty good.
As Patreon community manager, I'm going to veto that real hard.
Okay.
Maybe it's a punishment if we get too low on the rankings. If we start slipping, we have to start releasing that.
Okay.
Justin Krieger mentions Ruins of Dantooine. Jared has been singing its praises in Discord recently. Says it was not that bad. I have also been reading some Legends myself, I will say. I recently finished Wraith Squadron, which is book 5 of the X-Wing series, and it is one of the funniest books I have ever read. Aaron Alston just somehow nails that banter with Wedge Antilles and Wes Jensen, and it's just, I don't know, they're little snippy comebacks. It's like two best friends who have known each other for 30, 40 years, and they just kind of shoot the crap, and it's so fun playing pranks on each other. It's very, very fun and a really good story. So and I've just started reading Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, I believe. So I'm all over the timeline right now, but
how many books are in the X-Wing series? I know I've asked this multiple times.
Technically 10 or 11, I think.
Wow.
I know there are 4 technically Rogue Squadron, 4 Wraith Squadron, and then it was weird. I think they did a couple more out of order, and one came out as late as 2012, I think. That jumps ahead in the timeline a decade or more. I don't know.
Okay.
It's a lot. I'm in it for the long haul.
Yeah. If you want to do a 10, 11, 12 book series, you remember what you read in the first book?
So far it's been okay. They also do a
that's
really
what I'm
good
afraid
job
of. Yeah.
They do a really good job each book of here's 3 paragraphs that just kind of sum up everything that's kind of happened before.
I learned my lesson when I tried to read Wheel of Time, I guess about 10 years ago. I made it all the way to book 5, just chugging them out one after the other. But about book 5, 5.5, I was like, okay, I cannot take literally any more of this. I need to put this down. And here 10 years later, I still haven't been back. So don't be afraid to take your time there. Break it up. Break it up, y'all too.
Wes, you reading anything these days?
I had just finished listening to, I did audiobook, Brotherhood for the second time. So I listened to it twice because
look at you.
I blew through it the first week it came out. I think I had to go in the office an extra day. That's probably why. But it was so super good because it is when I got it in my head that this was right after episode 2, but before the Clone Wars. I was like, okay, now I can put myself in that timeline area and then see how Anakin and Obi-Wan's relationship grows, and I think it's an incredible book. So I don't want to give anything away. We're going to do a roundtable on that next Monday on The Living Force. But yes, 2 times I listened through this, and I still have a Legends book on my nightstand, Tales of the Bounty Hunters, or Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, that I've had read for, it has 3 years. 3 years, I haven't finished it. I still have 4 stories left to read, and it's just sitting there. I've moved it the other day, and there's a dust line where it was, and I was like, I should probably finish this. But I haven't actually read a book, man, in a couple months now, because I've been knocking them out on audiobook, and I just love all the background music and all the sound effects and the way that the narrators, whether it be Jonathan Davis, whether it be anybody else, but just the way that they get into the story and they make you feel like they're there. They don't just read the words to you. It's great. I am very much a proponent for audiobooks. So.
Absolutely.
The entertainment value is just kind of next level.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And you can also do your dishes at the same time, so your house is even cleaner,
Dishes, cleaning, cooking, definitely. I do a lot of cooking while I listen, so there's all kinds of things you do. I think I have ADD. I know I have ADD, I just don't take medication for it, so this kind of helps. I have other things to do.
Dude, I take medication, you take audiobooks.
Yeah.
Ask your doctor if audiobooks are right for you.
Love it.
Speaking of shameless plugs and advertisements, I think we should probably do some quick ads and we'll get into the main topic here. Is that okay?
You know what? I don't have an ad. You know why?
Sweet.
You know why? Because we don't do ads anymore.
You're right. Listen, the only thing we need is our Patreon money. So no. So if we're not doing an ad, that's great. That means we get to go straight into the main topic. I'm first going to take a big old sip of water. Calm down.
But we can say, if this is your first time listening, or watching. The Living Force comes on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central,
Correct.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Eastern.
Yep.
I'm in
you
the
got
Central
it.
time zone, so I always say that one first. And then Cosmic Force today, 7 p.m. Central, 8 Eastern. And Legends Look Back is on Thursday. And that goes into all the Legends content, where they do books and roundtables. And that is 9:30 Central.
Mm-mm.
No.
It's
8:30 Central, 9:30
9:30
Eastern. Sorry about that.
9:30 Eastern. Now that one is, I think most of the hosts are actually in Central Time for Legends Look Back, so that makes a little more
Correct.
sense.
And then Freddy's all the way out west Pacific time. So
isn't
yep.
isn't Emily as well?
Maybe.
Emily's all
They
over the
move-
place.
She moves a lot.
I was about to say, by the time you're listening to this on audiobook, she's probably moved. All right, so let's
And
get into
all of the shows are great.
Yes, let's get into the main topic though, because this is going to be a great show. We're going to talk about Valence, the mechanicoid, Imperial soldier turned bounty hunter, and his relations to the Terminator. So I have read through a couple of his early stuff, reread a couple issues. So let's talk about Valence. Now, it's crazy. He first appeared in Star Wars issue number 16 in 1978. We see him,
That was a long time ago.
I had no idea.
Yeah, 78. Like when I was rereading this like about a year ago, I thought, wait, is this like the first time we get to see like an actual bounty hunter? Well, no, we technically saw Greedo, but this is the first time we get to see a cool bounty hunter like in Star Wars. Okay, like he's a droid hating bounty hunter. He tries to he blows up droids all over the place. It's not until a couple of issues later that we realize that he's actually like mostly droid himself. Kind of some really kind of dynamic anti-heroism there. Eventually he sacrifices himself to delay Vader to help Luke and the rebellion. It wasn't, and then after that he made a few like comic booky reappearances in the towards the end of that 77 run, but he wasn't really introduced back into canon, because I don't think he really showed up in like any novels or books. Like we try to summon why am I blanking on our Legends Look Back crew to see if they have any more information there, but see if we can summon Jared here. But I don't think he really showed back up until strangely enough in Han Solo Imperial Cadet #1 in 2018. I guess it must have been like wild if you're reading that at the time, because they kept mentioning like this one dude and he kept seeing him in the background, and suddenly his name is Valence, and like I'm sure like there must have been like 3 or 4 like big Star Wars comic nerds who must have been like,
yeah, I had no idea.
Trevor,
I had no idea who this person was, because he wasn't in the lineup from Empire Strikes Back. Like he wasn't up there with Bosk and IG88. Like he wasn't up there with them.
Okay, so that's a good frame of reference. Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, he wasn't there, but he was in the comics way before that. And then if I'm not mistaken, Caleb, when they did that special issue of like Star Wars number 108, that's where they kind of finish his story arc from Legends, right?
He does show back up in that in 108, him versus Vader again. Yes.
Yeah, cool.
And it's very much more interesting because I'm jumping around my points here a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is fun that he, in the very first time they created him, like his big ending thing was him fighting against Vader. And again, at that point, we didn't know Vader was mostly cyborg himself. Like, that's kind of a fun, like, dramatic irony of 2 cyborgs duking it out. But when they wrote it in 78, 79, they had no idea.
Yeah, Vader was just a bad guy.
Exactly. I had to look up. He's now more machine now. The classic quote, he's more machine than man now. And that was in Return of the Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like we had no idea that he was cyborgified. Cyborgified?
It works.
Yeah, okay.
Wes, did you have any idea that he beat old Arnold?
Did he beat Arnold? Or
I mean, just like to being a thing, like that. And I might be getting ahead of myself here, but that Terminator was almost maybe more inspired by Valence than the other way around.
No idea whatsoever. I thought that was the brainchild from what's the director's name? Didn't he do Titanic? What's his name?
James Cameron.
James Cameron, yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was James Cameron's brilliance. He just brought it up on his own in the 80s. And But if he pulled this like concept or pulled these ideas from a comic book, it wouldn't surprise me, but there are some similarities that are very similar, especially, I mean, I just read the first paragraph in the book, and there are 2 or 3 similarities within the first paragraph that is like, this is the Terminator story to a T, like from 1 to 2, like in just one paragraph.
T800.
So yeah, very interesting that they would pull this concept from a comic book, but it's not confirmed, is it? Or is it?
It's not confirmed, but well, to skip ahead, Karen himself, I think, has gone on record saying that the movie Star Wars is what helped push him into filmmaking. So,
all right, so we can't take it out of the lineup then.
It's not necessarily like we can't prove it, but you can't 100% disprove it either.
Yeah,
correct.
Exactly. So, well, let's kind of go on through this like timeline a little bit here. The Terminator, the movie was released in October of 1984. So again, if you're good with mathematics, that's a whole 6 years after the first appearance of Valence in the movie classic by James Cameron. So definitely you can see some resemblance here of like the synthetic flesh melting off and all like that. So just quick question, my co-hosts here, which Terminator movie is your favorite except for T2? You can't say T2.
Well,
Wes?
Here's another question. Have you seen all the Terminator movies? How many are there? Because I know are there 5? Because I didn't see the 4th one and I didn't see the 5th one. So I think there are 5. I don't know.
Yes.
But I'm going to say, regardless, Terminator, the original, is going to be my favorite outside of T2. I just recently watched it like a couple months ago too, and it still holds up.
There are, for those keeping track at home, apparently there are 6 movies in the Terminator franchise.
Okay. And there's a TV series, right?
Oh yeah, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. So there's the first one, the second one, Terminator 3, then Salvation, Genesis, and Dark Fate.
Dark Fate. Okay, that's the one that I knew came out.
That's the most recent one where they brought back the entire OG cast, right? Or at least a couple more of them. So Salvation is mine, echoing Justin Krieger. He's like, I know it's bad, but Salvation's mine. Here's the thing, though. For me, I mean, that movie came out in like 08, 09, something like that. So it was like peak Christian Bale, peak Sam Worthington. I knew nothing about the Terminator franchise. And going into that movie theater as like a middle schooler, I was like, this is so cool. I need more. And that got me to go back and watch the others. And knowing how kind of wonky the franchise kind of is with time travel and all this stuff, I did love that it was set in like its own time and space. It happened in the future. I'm glad we got to see all that. So that's my favorite.
Wow, this is going to be weird. We're almost 3 for 3 because we're carrying Justin's here. I think my favorite, if I can't do T2, might be Salvation 2, if only because like it's like I can't say it was a good movie. I only saw it once, but I was with a friend and like at his college dorm, and we just kind of sat around and watched it. And I just remember having a really good like chill time, like in my sophomore year of college, just kind of watching that on Blu-ray or something.
You're having a chill time with this guy? Like the CGI they use is so much better than T1 and T2. I'll give you that.
Yes.
It looks like he still has his pants on. Or sort of.
It's a good looking.
Like, why would you even put pants on a Terminator?
But okay. So nostalgic wise, well, I haven't seen Salvation, but I know Christian Bale was in it, so it's probably pretty good. The third one, what might have been my second choice, just because Arnold basically came out of retirement and did his whole shtick with the Terminator series, because we all thought that was it. After T2, I mean, spoiler alert, he melts himself into molten iron or whatever that it was there. So you think he's gone. But then if you've seen Terminator 1, there are hundreds of these things that the machines created. and they were able to figure out time travel, and they send these Terminators, basically something that looks like this, back in time to kill the human general as a child. But that's the concept of Terminator 2. So Terminator 1 is they're trying to kill the woman that's going to have the child. So it's as they figured out what time travel was, and they showed that the humans were beating the machines in the human machine war, they said, well, if we can kill, like cut the snake off at the head, then let's use time travel and kill the general before he's even born.
That's wild.
Awesome. It is such a wild story. It's so cool. But every time I come across it, I'm like, surely there's more efficient ways of using time travel to solve your problems, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can just, definitely use it for some kind of lottery winnings.
Right. Well, so there's two really cool Star Wars connections that I wanted to bring up. So do you remember at the end of Mando season 1, I think, when the babysitter IG droid, IG-11 or whatever,
yes,
when he melts the same way, protecting them at the very end?
Oh, yeah.
Taika Waititi even said that was very much kind of an homage to Terminator, which was really cool, to T2. And then on the time travel front, right? So they did the concept where
Rebels,
with Rebels, similar to Rebels, where like time travel can happen only because it was intended that you would always go back into time. So you didn't break anything because part of the future was you going back into time. And that's kind of what they did with Ahsoka and Ezra in Rebels, spoiler alert, in order to make sure that she was all well and good. Like he yanked her from getting slashed by Vader. But so it plays by the same rules, I think. So
cool. I found that IG-11 image of him walking underneath the tunnel. Just
what is it about droids dying that's so sad?
We think that they're sentient just by the way that they help. Because droids, if the droids were not in Star Wars, then there would be a short series, because they always find a way to help out the Jedi or the Sith, like go over an obstacle that they can't like figure out, whether it be an elevator, whether it be like opening a door, spewing like oil on the ground so the droids can slip and fall. It's just they have all the right like mechanics to help. Like they are your Jedi's best friend pretty much, and that's why they're always there.
Like I would totally kill that. I would totally pay a lot of money to have a droid best friend. I'm not going to put that on camera.
Okay, Caleb, you can do that now. I don't know what you can get a best friend. Your wife may not like it. they can ship it to your door.
A mechanical best friend that could hack doors for me. Like just to, like, how many times would you just wish you could just hack a door and get through it? Droids can do that.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if I think I'd want one that could talk back to me. I don't know if I'd be okay with an R2 unit that just chirps and beeps at me. It's like, I already have pets. It's like, I would like, it'd be so much better if you could just talk to me, little cat.
You'd have to understand the tone of the chirp. That's how like dogs understand what we say to them, just by your tone of your voice.
Listen, I perfectly understand Chopper in Rebels, okay?
Yeah, no kidding. He speaks basic easily. Yeah. Easily speaks basic.
So I guess
it's just Disney is beeping him out all the time.
Correct. So kind of to that point, though, one of the things about Terminator and about Valence as well. So Valence is man who kind of was turned into a machine, and Terminator is this droid machine that's kind of trying to be more human-ish. I don't know. What do y'all think about the way that how that's portrayed? And just general concepts around that.
So it's kind of opposite, right? It's opposite with Valence's. He was a human stormtrooper, right? And he got hurt, some injury, and they helped him with cybernetics, and they turned into a cyborg. Whereas Terminator is a cyborg, and they put flesh that looks like human flesh over top of this endoskeleton, but Oh man, I wish I could remember that line. It's like human skin over a metal endoskeleton. I forgot what it was. Anyways, um, but he learns from the general as a boy, who is who's Edward Furlong, and he teaches him how to retort back, how to not crush somebody's hand when they're shaking hands. He asks the Terminator itself, asks him, "Why do you cry?" And so they try to understand emotion, but they still can't kind of. He understands a little bit of it at the very end of Terminator 2, but with Valence, he already knows that. But I think like I said, he's on the opposite side, and he's learning more how to work cybernetics, which kind of also is the same with Vader. Vader's also learning how to use his hand, and Anakin how to use his hand in Episode 2, and then Vader how to use everything after Episode 3. So,
and it's hard to not give yourself over to, well, I am part droid or I am mostly droid, so now I am only droid, right? I think that's something that we see Valence kind of wrestle with. He has still a very real human component. He goes to some pretty dark places psychologically, kind of wishing he were dead a couple times. But he has this really weird connection with Han because he saved him in the Imperial Cadet comics. And he's like, I'm going to save my friend. I owe him something. And so it's been interesting getting to, from me not being familiar really well with either of these characters, to see a little bit of the weird commonalities that they share from both perspectives. They're vastly different, but I think they can teach us some neat things. Caleb, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, Valence definitely seems like there's points in the story where you can tell that he's always trying to like take his humanity and what's left of him and like bury it beneath his like metal facade of uncaring, of just pure unbridled bounty hunter badassness. Like that's what he's trying to do throughout a lot of the series, and it, you know, oftentimes it doesn't work because he comes up with across someone from his past and someone who meant a lot to him and previously, or he comes across a cause that, despite what he says, I don't fight for any causes, he'll still help the rebellion or help refugees because he still feels that human emotion and often gets in trouble because of it. So there's some really good, like, you know, dynamics of Valence doing his best to become that, you know, IG-11, IG-88, like hunter-killer droid, but that's not necessarily what he is, and he's not at his best when he is becoming machine-like. Meanwhile, you know, and on the opposite, you know, with the Terminator, it like Terminator 2 was like, there's some really amazing moments in there, but the core of that movie is, you know, John Connor, the kid, like seeing a father figure in the Terminator robot, this, you know, killing machine, and seeing him slowly open up, and then that final like, you know, I was like a dumb 17, 18-year-old kid when I first saw T2, but like I still teared up like watching that alone in my room as the thumb came out of the lava.
Man,
God, like I don't know if I like, just thinking about it, like I'll still have the same reaction when I watch it now. Like I'll probably watch it sometime this week just to have that same reaction, you know.
It's kind of juxtaposed to where most recently in the Mando series. No, see, I get that mixed up. Now it's Boba Fett. They did this to us. So the street toughs that wanted those cybernetic parts like put on, so they have like better vision, or they have I don't know, like better trigger skills. I'm not sure what the other ones were, but
they watched too much Cyberpunk 2077 Let's Plays.
But my question is, did he want those cybernetic implants? Did he want to be turned into cyborg, or was he just so crippled and he was so hurt and injured that he couldn't answer? They were just like experimented on him, and then
he was there's a like he had it wasn't one big injury that got him to a point. Like he crashed his TIE fighter, they put cybernetics into him and turned him into a foot soldier up front, and then later on he, you know, got blown up at being a foot soldier. So they're like, listen, like we've replaced you so many times that, you know, you're essentially your soldier insurance has run out. We've given you everything you can. You're discharged soldier. Have a good life as a robot.
It's
Thank
pretty
you. No
sucky.
severance. Jeez. You
No.
don't get a shiny
It's-
gold watch, and they told you to get out of here.
No, he got this shiny gold booty. That's the only thing he got out of it.
Yeah. Well, and it's so weird looking at the older Valance too from the 78 run because he hated droids. So
Oh,
then
like
there
he
is
blasted them all the
this
time.
weird irony that he got like hit by some like airborne torpedo or something like that. I think it's revealed later, but yeah, then he's like having to wrestle with the fact that he is part droid, but he hates droids in general. It's very, very odd. Now in the current run, he's kind of like unwillingly serving with Vader. Like Vader's kind of forcing him in this weird position, and he has to like do his bidding, or I don't know. All this weird stuff it's a thing. He also currently has his full face. Last we saw
it rips off like it's
like they repair it, and
and
he's
it
like,
rips off like
I don't
every
know
other
how to deal with
issue.
this. Yeah, it's very strange. It's a new concept. This whole thing was a new concept to me, but I'm kind of digging it now as we're talking about it.
So this was one of the 78 comics, correct?
This was his
Correct.
original.
Gotta be at
was the
35
original one.
cents. Gotta
Yep.
be. Okay, so he has his full face in this one,
Yeah.
but he has, I'm guessing that's a cybernetic, like
So
parts for his arms and legs.
No, that's just a battle armor.
It's battle
At the
armor.
very end of this issue, I read it today. At the very end of this issue, something happens and it like melts, and he has this like yellow goo essentially that's like coming down his face, and it's like, oh, he was part robot this whole time. What?
Oh.
And he was the first bounty hunter to ever show up in Star Wars, I believe.
in the
which is-
comics. at
Yeah, in the
least.
comics. Yeah,
Okay.
which is just wild.
Like he was a kind of a cool dude. Like the weird thing is that the thing that like turned him around and stopped him hating droids was actually C-3PO.
Yeah, because he defended Luke, right?
Yeah,
Because
like-
it was weird because Valance initially had this thing with Luke because his two best friends were droids, and he was like, "But I hate droids, therefore
Like
I
you-
hate Luke."
You
And then
no
C-3PO
human
was
can
like,
have.
No, please don't kill my master, and like exhibiting these human traits, and he was like, "Oh, maybe the guy's not so bad after all." And that's been a difference from Legends to canon because he had this kind of weird connection with Luke there, but now he's more connected to Han, right? And that's what do you think the difference has been in that, or why that choice?
Well, I think the cynical answer is because they were writing Han's backstory at the time, so it's very easy to tie it in there. We kind of
Kinda
know
makes sense.
Luke's backstory ish. I mean, we can still fill in some corners, but they were doing the Han Solo kind of miniseries. I think it makes more sense for Han and Valence to be tied together because of their kind of criminal-esque pasts.
Yeah,
I definitely can now understand how that was only a bodysuit. This is pretty morbid as a comic book. I mean,
it looks the most close to the image you showed of Arnold earlier.
for sure. Yes,
And
for
remember,
sure.
this was 6 years earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
It's crazy. It's
And-
crazy.
What's even more wild is this issue also has Jackson the Rabbit in it.
I saw that. That's he's
Yeah,
right there on the
so-
cover.
Yeah.
He was like all over that early comic sort of thing.
Shout out to Jose and Kevin Scott.
Exactly.
That's wild.
It was crazy. So to switch back to the Terminator franchise a little bit, we talked about how Cameron got himself into filmmaking because of Star Wars. What other like Star Wars films can we see influenced by Cameron's work? We talked about the blowing up Vibe G11 with the lava scene. Is there anything else we can think of that plays direct homage to Terminator? And if you want to stretch it, maybe Avatar or Titanic are Cameron's other great works.
And I would love to figure out how to tie in Titanic with Star Wars.
The Fallen Star. The end.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah. I was about to say the Halcyon Legacy,
Point.
but that's still going.
Mhm.
Point. Oh my god, that's like there's a lot of tie-ins with that. Oh my gosh. No spoilers, I guess, but geez. Yeah, I guess Avatar might be. I don't know.
Like, well, Avatar is like such a weird one that I feel like it was
Is.
really popular, but I don't know if I can point to anything that directly was like an Avatar clone or something that was directly taken off of Avatar.
Yeah. I think Terminator 2 is the perfect example, especially of just this one part that I had read where he was ready to sacrifice himself on Centaurus, falling into the corrosive waters of Ruby Flame Lake while trying to prevent Vader from learning Skywalker's identity. So he's sacrificing himself, much like Arnold sacrificed himself in T2, to get rid of the chip and the evidence, so Skynet didn't grab it and make these robots that are basically make Skynet, pre-Skynet, that would make Skynet and robots take over. So, which is funny because there's a internet company that is down where my duck lease is, and it says they're Skynet. See it every day. I need to take a picture next to it and show it to you guys. It's hilarious.
Not at all.
Like I was about to say, did they name it before or after the movies came out?
It's got to be after. It looks like a
there's
newer
got to be
sign.
some copyright infringement somewhere.
What were you gonna say, Tim?
Oh, I mean, just in general, I mean, I think it's true of any sci-fi, fantasy, space fantasy, whatever. I mean, you've got the resistance against the Empire, resistance against Skynet. You've got just kind of the not so much a droid revolution in Terminator, but you do see a lot of anthropomorphizing, or whatever that word is. You see that a lot, like in Solo we saw L3 lead that droid revolt on, was it Kessel? So just a flipping of bad guys good guys kind of thing.
Well, we had the entire sequel trilogy was droids were the villains.
Yeah, or the prequels.
Prequels. The droids were the villains. Like the first one ended with them destroying the master control center and shutting down all the evil murder droids.
Right.
True. And then they're responsible for how Mando was found and turned into a foundling. There's that.
True.
I mean, they're all bad. Not all of them, but the ones that look bad are bad because their eyes point down. They're red.
Sounding like the cantina bartender.
We don't serve your kind around here.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's see. I was trying to pull some good pictures of Valance here, but all the good ones are from the 78 comic because they're so gruesome. I love it.
Oh yeah. They're they had the 70s comics had like some weird, maybe not weird, that's the wrong term to use, but they can't wait hard for the being racist against droids is bad, which is a good angle, don't get me wrong, but it's interesting that they're tackling racism through manufactured sort of things rather than actual space racism. But to their credit, it was the 70s, so they only could get away with so much.
He's beefy. I mean, it is not hard to the leap in logic is not hard to think James Cameron saw this and went, Arnold Schwarzenegger looks just like him.
Exactly. And I do love that this is his very first panel appearance, and they still keep his blue color scheme in the more current comics, and it's all blue jumpsuit.
It's got a skull on there like the Punisher.
Right.
Ooh, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Yeah, he's the Punisher. I think he also goes in there and if I remember correctly, he goes there and tortures some poor geriatric wants to be Jedi Don Juan Quixote.
Oh yes,
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes. Listen, dude, the 70, 77, 78 runs, man, those they are wild.
They really are. All right. In your last minute things we want to bring up about the Terminator or the Valence series in general here before we start moving to some a few tie overs or a few fun questions for the ending.
I think I'm ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
Bring it on. Right.
So, feel free to add more of these sort of last minute sort of things. But I have a quick question here. Do you think we'd ever see Valence in live action, or at least in an animated Clone Wars sort of thing? And if so, who do you think we should voice him?
I think he would be a great experiment into animation, just because not a lot of people know about him. I just learned about him. Well, not just learned about him, but a couple weeks ago. But a good step into a market of a bigger audience is animation. That would be great if somebody if they get a large following, if they get a big uproar of like, oh, who is this character, and they start getting deep dives on who he is and where he came from and like how long he's been around, then I think animation is the way to go. And if he gets enough of a response, you can see him in live action. I mean, it would be such a great live action character, but then everybody would do the same thing as what we're doing right now and compare it to the Terminator.
Well, then maybe we'll get that SEO finally.
Yeah.
This will be our most popular episode.
We were here first.
You know what? I think the perfect person for like casting him, as weird as it sounds, because you brought up a character he played earlier, Josh Brolin. Because he did Cable.
And
like
he did Cable well.
That sort of no nonsense gruff sort of dude. Like, you know,
that's a good choice.
Always has like the gray streaks, kind of like Reed Richards there. So yeah, I think that'd be a pretty fun one.
I dig that. I dig that for sure. I don't know that we'll get him in live action anytime soon. I do think animation's probably the good route. I think one of the interesting things will be as this current series wraps up. Because right now the mainline comics and Bounty Hunters and Vader and all that is going from Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi. So it'll be interesting to see it, like where his story goes if it wraps up. I think the animation route could be good, but I worry that a lot of his story is already being told. And we've already gotten a lot of his backstory as well from Imperial Cadet. I wonder almost if they could even introduce him in like like a video game or even like a YouTube short or something like that. I would love to go around and run around as Valence in a video game.
Star Wars Bounty Hunters 2, the sequel we always didn't know we wanted.
Oh, dude, man, that would be...
I could totally get behind that.
That'd be a great idea to do a YouTube short of it. Just have them do the CGI like a video game and then see what the response is. Just like as it pushed out by the official Star Wars YouTube channel, and then like not have any detail behind it, and you're just like, that would be a fantastic first-person shooter. I'm really into those.
Yeah. Now, you did just
you could like upgrade his abilities along the way.
Yeah.
He gets into some accident, and you're like,
one blaster hand,
give you a new eye.
2 blaster hands. Like, you did something. Give me a quick question to post you guys. Do you think Valence is just a little too Terminator to really fit in with the Star Wars universe? Like, do you feel like that might be the reason we haven't seen him in more, you know, mainstream sort of things? Is like the higher ups are looking at it like, man, if we release this, people will call us like copying out the Terminator and not being original anymore, even though it is an original 78 character. Do you feel like they could get some backlash for that?
I could see it, but it's so original. It's so original in Star Wars though, because I don't see any character like that has like the human flesh over cybernetic organism. You know, there's nothing
like even Vader in his most back to tanky naked, you still see like clear delineations between arms and flesh.
Yes, but oh man, it's very Terminator. I mean, I think James Cameron has like wrapped up that as his character that he has created, even though we can't officially say he took that from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Let us know, James. Know you're watching.
Hit us up in the comments. All right. So this is the last question I really have. I think this could be a really fun one here. The whole like carrying the entire Terminator franchise on his back has been Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like he's like if it wasn't him, it would not be anything we would still be talking about to this day, I don't think. So who should Arnold Schwarzenegger play in Star Wars? He's still around. He's starting to get back in acting. Like, you can either name a specific character or an archetype that you would like to see him get into.
I think my gut, I mean, it would be too on the nose, I think, for him to do like an older Valence or something. Like if there was a random cameo,
a little bit much.
It would be a bit on the nose. But I see him filling out a like if they did a series, like a Disney Plus series or something about the Imperial Remnant after Return of the Jedi. I mean, we're kind of doing it now, and you've got like Moff Gideon kind of like off and away and doing his thing. I would love to see Schwarzenegger as another one of those like Moff warlord, like
Ooh.
Imperials. I think he fits that role really well and can bring that big brass gravitas to it, and be a villain again. I would love to see that.
I was trying to picture him with the Rebel Alliance or with the Resistance, and I can't do it. I cannot do that. So he has to be with the Empire, and I feel that he'd be like, he's like an old school, like you were saying, some of the Imperial remnants, like from Return of the Jedi, that kind of hung around, but he's an old executioner that was put out to pasture. We don't need you anymore. You're too old. But then they bring him back, or they go looking for him, and he just like shows up because he has the Moff Gideon has the rebels tied up on their knees, waiting for it to be executed, and he just walks in dragging like this axe that's way too big to be slung over his shoulder, but he's able to do it. Much like Conan. He brings Conan and Terminator back in, and he just throws it over his shoulder, and he's like, back for one more death. What about you, Caleb? What do you think?
All right, I wrote this one down, and I think this could be a lot of fun. If they ever do a High Republic series, I think he'd be almost perfect for the Pan Eta character, the Tempest Runner of the Nihil, the big Gallatin one.
Oh yeah.
Like, because not only is he a huge angry bruiser, but it's not something that we see too much. But Pan Eta is actually really clever. And Schwarzenegger's a pretty smart dude, like, he's not just a meathead. So seeing that like extra dynamic to the character, I think he'd be a really fun Pan Eta, even if we'd have to put him all in like the CGI bodysuit and the prosthetics and everything. I think that'd be a really fun sort of thing.
Yeah, he was the governor, so
yeah,
he's got he knows a little bit of politics too.
I didn't even think about him being an alien, I guess. And that would be a much more suitable, even if he just voiced the character or something. I think that would be kind of cool. He'd also make a good Deveronian, I think.
Ooh, yeah.
Can I give him the devil horns? Yeah, totally.
That's a good choice.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, as I said, I think that's where we're going to land a plane. I know it feels like we didn't talk too much, but I think we got a lot of fun discussion here. Hopefully that if you haven't, even though these movies are old, watch the first and second Terminator. They're really good. Like the second one is still probably one of the greatest action movies, if not like movies ever made. I think like if someone would come up to me and say Terminator 2 is the greatest movie ever made, I would not be able to disagree with them or like change their opinion.
Mm-hmm. It is that, and Empire Strikes Back is probably the sequels are better than than the first movie. I mean, that's debatable in Star Wars, but it's definitely true in Terminator.
Yeah, I think that was the argument I was going to go with. Like, if you told me, name some of the better sequels that have ever existed, I'd be like Empire, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Terminator 2. Like, yeah, it would be on the list.
Absolutely. So, Timothy, what do we have coming up next week for our show?
Yeah, a couple of quick announcements. So next week on The Cosmic Force, we will be covering The High Republic Edge of Balance Volume 2.
The manga of sequels that were better than the original.
Yeah, and I haven't read it yet, so I'm very excited. I bought both of them on my Kindle just recently, so I'm very excited to get into those. And then tomorrow night, Legends Look Back is going to begin doing their roundtable, two-part roundtables on Darth Bane, Dynasty of Evil. So tomorrow will be part 1. Those are such good books. Wes, I know you're a fan of those.
Man, I'm such a fan of those. We get Sith. We haven't got Sith in a long time. If you want Sith, you reread the Bane trilogy. It's so good.
Yeah,
so
and
good.
Dynasty of Evil is just lands the trilogy so well.
Yeah.
So yeah, look for that part 1 tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern. And the podcast will be up on like Tuesday or something. And then on Monday, Wes, you've already mentioned it once in this show. What are y'all covering beginning this Monday?
So Monday, we will be doing a roundtable of Mike Chin's Brotherhood, which is a book that came out about a little over a month ago, and it gets into Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationships right after Episode 2, but before the Clone Wars, like the Clone Wars cartoon and Clone Wars animation. And if you've seen episode 3, who hasn't? That business on Pneumonia, that is what the book is about. So if you haven't read it yet, you can finish it in a weekend. I've done it with an audiobook. I've read it twice, or I've listened to it twice. So we're going to get into plot and probably get through some characters on Monday, and then into overarching questions the following week. So it's not going to be a full spoiler show. We won't probably get to it towards the end with overarching questions, but we do get a great plot synopsis by Charles, the Grandmaster himself, and then we go into some character analysis that will, give some background on some of the characters that you read about that you should probably already know about.
Absolutely.
Correct.
We got a real roundtable week coming up, don't we?
Yeah, it's going to be heavy. All of these books that we have mentioned, you can find on utini.com. Go to the book profile pages, find the Amazon links, the bookshop.org links, the what have you. Go get them, read them. You've got plenty of time. They're so good. And then also Audible as well. We do have a free trial if you've never listened to the audiobooks before. We also have a link at utini.com as well. And I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Crazy Cosmic Force, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show right here on YouTube, where you can hear us live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. We also encourage you to subscribe to our audio version on whatever podcast platform you listen to. Those typically drop on Mondays. You can also follow us on Twitter and tweet at the show at Cosmic Force Show to stay informed about Star Wars comics happenings, or you can follow the hosts individually. I am at TCGuthrie2. Caleb is at Caleb Lamanek. Wes is at Boss Wes. And for the rest of our cosmic friends not here tonight, Tyler is at Ty Rags. Emma is at Irma Jedi 26. And Jacob is at Jacob Bausch. For reviews, articles, and news for the rest of the expanded universe, be sure to visit utini.com. We encourage you to join our Utini Discord community by going to utini.com/Discord. And you can help support the show by heading to patreon.com/Utini and drop a note and tell us hi. You can start receiving exclusive perks starting at just $5 a month. And want to give a special shout out to some of those patrons right now: Brian Dooley, Earl Q, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Matt Billington, Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. For all of your amazing support, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thanks again to Wes and Caleb for hosting with me tonight. Special thanks to you, our listeners, for joining us. We truly appreciate you. See everybody next week. May the Force be with you.